a story of how the galaxy's most prestigious alien architects discovered that humans, whom they had dismissed as primitive builders struggling under crushing gravity, had created an engineering marvel beneath Earth's surface, a network of underground megacities that defied their understanding of physics and construction. The crystal spires of the Intergalactic Engineering Summit glowed with an ethereal light against the violet sky of Proxima Centauri b. Inside the grand auditorium, beings from 100 worlds gathered for the millennia's most significant architectural conference. Among them, VIX-427, the most celebrated low-gravity architect in the known worlds, adjusted their gravitational stabilizer with an air of superiority. VIX-427's crystalline form shimmered as they reviewed their presentation on advanced construction techniques. Their latest project, a floating city on the minimal gravity world of Helios IV, had earned universal acclaim. Yet something irritated them: the presence of Earth's delegates at this prestigious gathering. The human contingent sat quietly in their designated section, led by Arya Patel, Earth's chief structural engineer. Unlike the floating or hovering seats preferred by other species, the humans had opted for simple ground-based chairs, seeming almost primitive in their simplicity. Imagine. VIX-427 whispered to their assistant. ZIX-290, they build everything under crushing gravity. How do they even manage to stand? Their crystalline surface rippled with barely contained amusement. ZIX-200 and 90's metallic tendrils curled in agreement. I heard they can't even construct beyond 20 levels without special reinforcement. Primitives. The summit director, a gaseous being named Nebula-9, floated to the podium. Distinguished architects, we gather today to share innovations across the gravity spectrum. Our first speaker, the renowned VIX-427, will present on ultra-light construction techniques. As VIX-427 glided toward the stage, they noticed Arya Patel watching them with an enigmatic smile. Something about that smile unsettled them. It held a confidence that seemed misplaced for a species trapped under such oppressive gravitational conditions. They pushed the thought aside. After all, what could these gravity-bound humans possibly know about true architectural innovation? VIX-427's presentation began with a holographic display of their latest achievement, the cloud cities of Helios IV. The floating metropolis defied traditional physics, its geometric patterns shifting in perfect harmony with the planet's minimal gravitational field. As we all know, VIX-427's voice resonated through the chamber. True architectural excellence can only be achieved when freed from the primitive constraints of excessive gravitational force. The crystalline being's surface rippled with pride as murmurs of agreement spread through the audience. With a fluid gesture, they projected an image of Earth's tallest skyscrapers. Consider these. They paused dramatically. Attempts at vertical construction. Our gravity-bound colleagues must employ crude reinforcement techniques, massive support structures, and primitive foundation systems just to achieve what we would consider basic elevation. The alien audience chittered and hummed in amusement. Several gaseous beings condensed briefly in what passed for laughter in their culture. Only the human delegation remained unmoved, with Arya Patel maintaining that same mysterious smile. But surely, VIX-427 continued, their crystalline form glowing brighter with mock concern. We cannot expect more from a species that evolved under such unfortunate conditions. Their very biology is compressed by their planet's oppressive gravity. It's remarkable they can build anything at all. More laughter rippled through the audience. A tentacled being from Europa actually changed color in amusement. Perhaps. Arya Patel's voice cut through the mirth like a laser through. The renowned VIX-427 would be interested in seeing what we've managed to build despite our unfortunate condition. The room fell silent. VIX-427's surface flickered in surprise at the interruption. Engineer Patel, while I am sure your achievements are impressive within their limited scope, we're discussing advanced architectural concepts here. Arya stood, her movement deliberate and confident. Indeed we are. Which is why I'd like to extend an invitation to you and any interested colleagues to visit, not to see our primitive skyscrapers, but rather what lies beneath. Beneath? VIX -427's form rippled in confusion. Yes, Arya smiled, and this time there was something almost predatory in her expression. You see, while you've been building up in low gravity, we've been building down in high gravity. And I suspect what we've achieved might challenge your understanding of what's possible in construction. The silence in the auditorium deepened. VIX -427's surface pulsed with conflicting patterns, curiosity warring with Finally, they responded with what they hoped was diplomatic condescension.
Very well, Engineer Patel.
In the interest of interspecies cooperation, I accept your invitation. Excellent, Arya replied, taking her seat once more. I look forward to expanding your architectural horizon. As the presentation resumed, VIX -427 found their concentration disturbed. Something in the humans' tone suggested they were walking into a situation they didn't fully understand. Their assistant, VIX -290, transmitted a private message. Surely this is a waste of time. But VIX -427 wasn't so certain anymore. They had studied Earth's visible architecture extensively, using it as an example of primitive construction technique. But in all their research, they had never considered what might lie below the surface. What could these gravity-bound humans have possibly built that would impress beings who created cities in the sky? The answer, they would soon discover, would shake the foundations of their architectural understanding, quite literally. The following week, a delegation of alien architects assembled at Earth's orbital station. VIX -427 led the group, which included representatives from 12 different species. Among them was Quartz -8, a silicon-based being known for designing quantum-suspended habitats, and Lumina -3, an energy form architect specializing in plasma state construction. Arya Patel greeted them alongside her colleague, Dr. Kai Nakamura, Earth's leading expert in subsurface engineering. The humans' calm demeanor seemed out of place against the backdrop of their visitors' obvious discomfort with Earth's gravity. Even in the reduced gravitational field of the orbitals, I trust everyone has activated their gravity compensation device? Arya asked, watching as several of the aliens adjusted their personal field generators. You'll need them at full capacity once we descend. Quartz -8's crystalline structure vibrated with concern. Surely you don't expect us to go into that gravity well? How else would you examine our architectural achievement? Kai smiled, his expression matching Arya's knowing look. Don't worry, our transport vessels are equipped with additional gravitational compensation. As the delegation boarded the descent vessel, VIX -427 transmitted private concerns to their colleagues. This seems increasingly unwise. What could they possibly have built under such conditions that would justify this discomfort? Lumina -3 pulsed in agreement, their energy form flickering anxiously within their containment field. Perhaps we should reconsider. Too late, Arya announced cheerfully as the vessel's doors sealed. Beginning descent to New Athens station. The journey down was tense. Through the vessel's viewport, the aliens watched Earth's surface approach, a sight that filled most of them with instinctive dread. Their species had evolved in environments with fraction of Earth's gravity. The very idea of willingly descending into such conditions seemed maddening. Before we reach our destination, Kai explained, pulling up a holographic display, you should understand that what you are about to see is merely one node in a vast network. The facility we're visiting extends throughout the Mediterranean basin, but similar complexes exist beneath every major continental planet. Impossible, Dr. Quartz -8 interjected. The crustal pressures alone would crush any normal structure? Arya finished. Yes, they would. That's why what we built isn't normal. The vessel's indicators showed they had passed below sea level, then beneath the continental shelf. Still, they descended. VIX -427's surface began to shimmer with nervous anticipation. They had come expecting to humor these humans with polite interest in whatever primitive bunkers they had managed to. Now, watching the depth indicator continue to drop, they weren't so sure about what awaited them. Welcome, Arya announced as lights began to appear in the darkness beyond the viewport, to humanity's greatest architectural achievement. Welcome to the Deep City Net. The first view of New Athens Station left the alien delegation speechless. Through the viewport, an impossibly vast cavern stretched into darkness, illuminated by ribbons of light that seemed to float in the... But these weren't just lights. They were buildings, transportation tubes, and agricultural complexes, all suspended within a reinforced chamber carved from the living rock. VIX -427's crystalline form pulsed rapidly, their sensors struggling to process the scale of what they were seeing. This cannot be structurally sound at these pressures. The weight of the rock is precisely what makes it possible, Kai interrupted, guiding their vessel toward a docking station that seemed to grow from the cavern wall like a metallic flower. We learned to use the pressure to our advantage. The entire complex is built on the principle of lithostatic equilibrium. The vessel docked with a soft thud, and the delegation moved through a series of airlocks into the station. Despite their gravity compensation devices, the aliens could feel the immense weight of Earth pressing down around them. Yet the humans moved with casual ease, completely at home in these impossible. The main concourse, Arya announced as they entered a vast circular chamber. Above them, a dome of something that looked like glass but couldn't possibly be glass at these pressures spanned the space. Through it, they could see layers of transportation tubes carrying vehicles in multiple directions, like blood vessels in some vast Lumina -3's energy form flickered erratically. Those transport tubes, they're moving against the gravity gradient. How are you powering? Geothermal energy, Kai explained, leading them toward a observation platform. The same forces that should make this construction impossible provide all the power we need. The heat differential between the levels drives our entire energy grid. The platform began to move, carrying them through the complex. They passed residential sectors where buildings hung like stalactites from the cavern ceiling, their designs defying conventional architectural laws. Gardens grew in spiraling patterns along the walls, utilizing every available surface. But the tectonic stresses, Dr. Quartz -8 protested, their crystalline structure vibrating with increasing agitation. A facility of this size should be crushed by plate movement. Arya smiled, pressing her hand against a nearby wall. The surface seemed to ripple slightly under her touch. That's where our adaptive architecture comes. The entire complex is designed to flex and flow with the Earth's movement. We don't resist the pressure, we dance with. They approached what appeared to be a manufacturing sector, where massive machines worked in perfect synchronization, producing components for further expansion. VIX -427 noticed something peculiar about the movement of material. You are using gravity assists for your manufacturing processes, they realized, their tone mixing disbelief with growing admiration. The very force we thought limited is our greatest tool, Arya finished. High-gravity manufacturing allows us to achieve material densities and structural strengths impossible in low-gravity environments. Those components you are watching being forged? They're destined for your world. Most of the ultralight materials used in your floating cities are actually produced right here, under crushing pressure. The delegation moved in stunned silence as they continued their tour. Each new revelation seemed to further shatter their preconceptions. They passed research laboratories, where scientists worked on gravity manipulation, educational facilities, where children learned in three-dimensional classrooms that used the full volume of their space, and medical centers that somehow utilized the high-pressure environment for healing. This is just one node, Kai reminded them as they reached a spectacular viewpoint showing the full scale of New Athens Station. Similar complexes exist under every major population. They're all connected by deep transit networks that can move people and materials anywhere on Earth in hours. VIX -427 stared out at the underground city, their crystalline form reflecting the countless lights that illuminated this impossible place. They had come expecting to find primitive bunkers. Instead, they had discovered an entire civilization, thriving in conditions they had believed would permit nothing more sophisticated than basic mining operations. And they hadn't even seen the most impressive parts yet. Deep beneath the Mediterranean basin, the alien delegation entered what Arya called the Innovation Hub, a vast spherical chamber that seemed to defy physics. The SP here's interior surface was dotted with research platforms, each dedicated to different aspects of high-pressure engineering and construction. This is where we develop our next generation of underground architecture, Kai explained, guiding them onto a floating platform that began descending through the chamber's layer. But more importantly, it's where we learn to turn our planet's gravity into an advantage. The first platform they visited showcased Earth's revolutionary pressure-forged materials. A scientist named Raja Kapoor demonstrated by placing a seemingly delicate strand of material, no thicker than a human hair, into a testing. This single fiber, Dr. Kapoor explained, can support the weight of 10 fully loaded cargo vessels. We create it by exposing conventional materials to precisely controlled gravitational stresses. literally forcing atoms into new configuration. VIX-427 extended a crystalline appendage to examine the fiber.
Impossible.
The molecular bonds required for such are achieved through what we call gravitational catalysis. Kapoor finished. The same principle that makes your worlds uninhabitable to us allows us to create materials that would be impossible in low-gravity environments. Moving deeper into the sphere, they encountered Dr. Elena Volkov, who specialized in adaptive architecture. She stood before a massive holographic display showing the real-time movements of Earth's tectonic. Our buildings don't just resist the Earth's movements, she explained, manipulating the display to show the complex's underlying structure. They anticipate and adapt. The entire network is essentially a living organism, constantly shifting and adjusting to maintain optimal stability. Lumina -3's energy form pulsed with incredulity. But the computational requirements for such a system are handled by quantum computers housed in pressure-enhanced containment chambers. Dr. Volkov smiled. The extreme conditions actually help maintain quantum coherence. Another gift from our high-gravity environment. The tour continued to a section dedicated to agricultural innovation, where vertical farms spiraled through pressurized chambers. Malik Hassan, the lead agricultural engineer, explained how they had developed plants that thrived under intense pressure, producing yields that would be impossible on the surface. The pressure forces evolution at an accelerated rate, he explained, showing them tomato plants bearing fruit the size of melons. We can achieve in decades what would take millennia in normal conditions. But it was the final stop that truly shattered the aliens' remaining skepticism. They entered a chamber where scientists were experimenting with what they called gravity sculpting, using precisely controlled gravitational fields to manipulate matter at the atomic level. This technology, Arya explained, is what allows us to continue expanding the network. We don't dig these caverns, we persuade the Earth's mass to move aside for. They watched as a demonstration showed rock seemingly flowing like water, creating new spaces without disturbing the surrounding structure. The process was beautiful, almost artistic, as if the very planet was cooperating with human ingenuity. VIX-427's surface had been gradually shifting from its usual crystalline clarity to a deep, thoughtful azure, a sign of profound intellectual recalibration in their species. All this time, they said quietly, we thought your gravity was a prison, but you've turned it into a fort. Dr. Quartz -8, who had been the most skeptical, vibrated at a frequency that indicated deep respect. You haven't just adapted to your conditions, you've mastered. Each challenge became an opportunity for innovation. Arya nodded, her expression serious for the first time since they'd arrived. That's the thing about humans. We don't just survive adversity, we learn. Every limitation becomes a stepping stone to new possibilities. The delegation gathered on an observation platform overlooking the Innovation Hub's central area. Below them, hundreds of scientists and engineers from around the world worked on projects that would further expand humanity's underground frontier. And this is just the beginning, Kai added. We're already adapting these technologies for off-world applications. The principles we've developed here could revolutionize construction throughout the galaxy. As they watched the bustling activity below, VIX-427 realized that their entire understanding of architectural possibility needed to be reconsidered. They had achieved their floating cities by avoiding gravitational challenges. Humans had achieved something far more impressive. They had embraced those challenges and turned them into opportunities. The revelation wasn't just architectural, it was philosophical. Sometimes, the greatest innovations came not from escaping limitations, but from embracing them completely. In the following days, VIX-427's team immersed themselves in studying the Deep City Network's engineering principles. What began as professional curiosity had evolved into an intensive technical exchange that would reshape interstellar architecture. Within the Advanced Materials Laboratory, VIX-427 worked alongside Dr. Kapoor, analyzing the pressure-forged materials at a molecular. Their crystalline form allowed them to perceive structural patterns that even Earth's most advanced microscopes couldn't detect. These gravitational stress patterns, VIX-427 observed, their surface rippling with excitement. They create molecular alignments we've never achieved in low-gravity manufacturing. The implications for structural engineering are extraordinary. Dr. Kapoor nodded, adjusting a holographic model showing the material's atomic structure. we've only scratched the surface of what's possible. With your understanding of crystal formation in variable gravity environments, we might be able to develop even more resilient materials. Meanwhile, Dr. Quartz -8 had become fascinated by the network's tectonic integration systems. Working with Dr. Volkov, they discovered that the principles used to handle crustal pressures could be adapted for gas giant construction, environments previously considered too volatile for permanent structures. Your adaptive architecture doesn't just respond to stress. Dr. Quartz -8 explained during an impromptu presentation, their crystalline form vibrating with enthusiasm. It anticipates and channels it. We could use similar principles to build cities within Jupiter's atmospheric band. The most surprising breakthrough came from Lumina -3's collaboration with the gravity sculpting. Their understanding of energy state architecture, combined with Earth's pressure manipulation techniques, led to an entirely new construction method they called phase shift build. By applying concentrated gravitational fields in precise patterns, Lumina -3 demonstrated their energy form pulsing with controlled excitement. We can temporarily alter matter's physical state. This allows us to shape materials with unprecedented precision. The innovations weren't just theory. Using the Deep City Network's manufacturing facilities, the team began prototyping hybrid structures that combined the best aspects of both human and alien engineering approach. Arya and Kai watched this technological fusion with satisfaction. What had begun as a demonstration of Earth's capabilities had evolved into something far more valuable, a true synthesis of different architectural philosophies. Your gravity sculpting techniques, VIX -427, admitted to Arya one evening, their surface showing patterns of deep blue. They're not just tools for excavation. They're a whole new approach to working with natural forces rather than against. Arya smiled, looking out over the central atrium, where human and alien engineers worked side by side. That's always been our approach. When you can't escape a challenge, you learn to dance with it instead. The breakthrough that sealed this new partnership came when VIX -427's team successfully adapted Earth's pressure forging techniques for use in orbital manufacturing. By creating artificial gravity wells in space, they could produce materials with the strength of Earth-forged components without the need for planetary facilities. This changes everything, Kai announced during the project's successful test. We can now combine the advantages of high-gravity manufacturing with the convenience of space-based construction. As the technical exchange drew to a close, both humans and aliens recognized that they had stumbled upon something revolutionary. Their combined knowledge had opened up possibilities that neither civilization could have achieved. The Deep City Network, once mocked as a sign of human limitation, had become the birthplace of a new era in interstellar architecture. And it all began because some humans had looked at crushing gravity and seen not a constraint, but an opportunity. In the weeks following the technical breakthroughs, the Deep City Network became a hub for unprecedented cultural exchange between human and alien architects. The Innovation Hub transformed into an interstellar design center where beings from across the galaxy gathered to share their unique perspectives on construction and spatial design. VIX -427 organized a symposium where alien architects presented alongside their human counterparts. Dr. Kapoor demonstrated pressure forging techniques, while Lumina -3 showed how energy state architecture could enhance the result. The combination of methodologies led to discoveries that neither species had imagined possible. Consider how we've always approached structural support. VIX -427 explained during one session, their crystalline form glowing with enthusiasm. In low gravity, we focus on minimal reinforcement. Humans under high gravity developed complex support systems. By combining both philosophies, we can create structures that are both lightweight and incredibly strong. The exchange went beyond mere technical collaboration. Alien architects began incorporating human aesthetic principles into their designs, while human engineers adopted the flowing, organic forms typical of low-gravity architecture. The result was a new school of design that transcended traditional planetary limitations. One evening, during a shared meal in the communal dining hall with appropriate atmospheric chambers for different species, Arya noticed how the various beings had naturally arranged themselves in mixed, engaged in animated discussions about everything from quantum engineering to artistic expression. When we first arrived, Dr. Quartz -8 observed, their crystalline structure displaying patterns of contentment. We saw Earth's gravity as a limitation. Now we understand it was this very challenge that drove human innovation to such extraordinary height. The cultural exchange culminated in a joint project, the design of a new type of settlement that could be adapted for any gravitational environment. The plans combined human expertise in pressure management with alien knowledge of variable gravity construction, creating a truly universal architectural template. This is more than just a technical achievement, Kai remarked during the project's unveiling. It's proof that our different approaches to challenges can complement rather than compete with each other. As news of the collaboration spread, more alien species began requesting tours of the Deep City Network. What had started as a demonstration to prove human capabilities had evolved into a symbol of interstellar cooperation and shared innovation. The most touching moment came when VIX-427, who had once mocked Earth's primitive construction method, formally presented Arya and her team with a crystalline model of their joint. The model, crafted from pressure-forged materials and imbued with energy state properties, represented the perfect fusion of their technology. We came here expecting to teach, VIX-427 admitted, their surface showing deep patterns of respect and friendship. Instead, we learned that true innovation comes not from avoiding challenges, but from embracing them and finding new ways to overcome them. The culmination of the cultural exchange manifested in a historic presentation at the next intergalactic engineering, where once VIX-427 had stood alone to mock Earth's construction methods. Now they shared the stage with Arya Patel and their combined team of human and alien engineers. The auditorium fell silent as VIX-427's crystalline form pulsed with a new humility. I stand before you to acknowledge a profound error in judgment, they began. We dismissed Earth's high gravity as a limitation. Instead, it proved to be the crucible that forged unprecedented innovation. Holographic displays showcased their joint achievements. The hybrid materials that combined pressure forging with crystal engineering, the adaptive architectural systems that could function in any gravitational environment, and plans for the first deep city network-inspired settlement on a gas giant. Our collaboration has taught us that true architectural excellence comes not from avoiding challenges, but from embracing. Arya continued. The future of construction lies not in overcoming gravity, but in learning to work in harmony with. The announcement of the Interstellar Architectural Institute, to be headquartered in the Deep City Network, drew thunderous. This new organization would serve as a permanent center for collaborative development between species, dedicated to pushing the boundaries of what was possible in construction across all gravitational conditions. As applause filled the chamber, VIX-427 turned to Arya, their surface displaying patterns that in their species indicated deep gratitude. You've transformed not just our understanding of architecture, but our entire approach to problem solving. Arya smiled, gesturing to the diverse group of beings that now made up their team. That's the thing about transformation, she replied. It works best when it goes both ways. On a clear evening 1 year after the historic summit, Arya stood with VIX-427 on the observation deck of New Athens Station, watching construction pods prepare for the next expansion phase. Below them, teams of human and alien engineers worked seamlessly together, their different physiologies and approaches now a source of strength rather than division. Sometimes I wonder, VIX-427 mused, their crystalline surface reflecting the myriad lights of the underground city, how many other innovations we've missed by assuming our way was the only way. The latest project displayed on the main screens showed construction beginning on Europa, where human pressure management techniques were being used to create stable structures within the ice moon's shifting. Meanwhile, on Earth, new districts of the Deep City Network incorporated alien crystal growth technology to create self-healing structural support. That's the real lesson from all, Arya replied, watching a group of young alien architects studying under human mentors. The greatest breakthroughs come not from conquering nature's challenges, but from learning to work with. As they stood there, surrounded by the fruits of their collaboration, both human and alien knew they had created something far more valuable than new construction techniques. They had built a bridge between worlds, founded on mutual respect and shared innovation. The greatest structure they had created wasn't physical at all. It was the foundation for a future where different species could learn from each other's challenges, turning perceived weaknesses into shared strengths. And like the Deep City Network itself, this foundation would only grow stronger with time.